Anderson Cooper 360. CNN, weeknights at 8 and 10 Eastern.
For years under the Bush administration, and even some still today, have praised what they called enhanced interrogation techniques. You interrogated people, did harsh interrogation techniques, which some would say was torture or enhanced interrogation techniques, whatever you want to call it. Did that actually work to get reliable information intelligence from al-Qaeda operatives?
Well, simply speaking, no. And it's not only me who's saying that. If you look at the CIA IG report, and most of it has been declassified, you will see that the IG, after reviewing
the Inspector General
of the CIA, exactly, after reviewing every single document out there and interviewing hundreds of people who were involved in the program, they came to the conclusion that they cannot verify one single imminent attack that was stopped because of EITs. I think we have to be careful about mixing the CIA interrogation program with EITs. The CIA interrogation program was a successful program. There's a lot of excellent men and women from the CIA who were working day and night to keep us safe, and they successfully done so with the help of the other members of the intelligence community and the law enforcement community. But EIT is a very small program within a bigger program.
Enhanced interrogation
techniques. Very small program within a bigger program.
Run by whom?
It was basically by the CIA, but it was run by contractors.
Outside employees, contract employees to the CIA.
Exactly. And if we look at enhanced interrogation techniques, look at waterboarding, for example. Supposedly we have been told that waterboarding kept us safe for the last 10 years. Only 3 people were waterboarded. Abu Zubaydah, Nashiri, and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
Right.
Only 3. So you want to tell me just by watering 3 people a couple of times, we were safe?
Because former Vice President Cheney still is standing by all the techniques that they used.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. Cheney and other people gave some claims about what kind of things that we got from EITs. For example, we identified allegedly Khalid Sheikh Mohammed as a mastermind of 9/11, or we identified Padilla as a possible dirty bomber. Well, all the stuff that has been mentioned, with all due respect, I was there, and we were not using EITs.
So you're saying categorically that these so-called enhanced interrogation techniques, which critics call torture,
right,
you say it did not work?
The examples that they are telling the people, the examples that they are mentioning of the successes of EITs, absolutely were not produced because of EITs. I'll give you an example.
How do you know that? I mean, you say you were there. How specifically, how can you say that for sure?
For example, most of the stuff that they mentioned came from Abu Zubaydah. They claim that KSM gave the information about Abu Zubaydah after waterboarding.
Right.
Well, waterboarding did not start until August of 2002. We knew about the information regarding KSM being the mastermind of 9/11 in April of 2002.
So before the waterboarding even
Absolutely.
began.
In the case of Mr. Padilla, they claim that it's waterboarding who led the CIA to know about Padilla and his plot to detonate the dirty bomb in the Washington, D.C. area. Well, waterboarding, again, did not start until August of 2002. Mr. Padilla was in custody in May of 2002. So how do we claim that waterboarding resulted with the information that led us to Padilla?
And when we talk about these enhanced interrogation techniques, I mean, you detail 12 interrogation techniques that were used by the CIA. The slapping, placing a detainee inside a cramped box, putting insects into a box, sleep deprivation for 11 days at a time, forcing a detainee to wear a diaper, and waterboarding. Are all of those enhanced interrogation techniques?
Yeah, I mean, the way the memos, the Office of Legal Counsel's memos described enhanced interrogation techniques, that it's kind of accumulate. You know, it starts with one technique, it goes to another, and it might end, but not necessarily ends with waterboarding. It might accumulate, but not necessarily
So multiple of these things could have been done to one person?
Yeah, absolutely. And all of them could have been done to one person.
Why do you think... I mean, in movies, when you see people doing this stuff, when the Nazis used to do it, you know, I remember going to a Tuol Sleng prison in Phnom Penh in Cambodia, and you see the waterboarding apparatus that the Khmer Rouge used against people.
Yep.
When you see it being done by other people, we labeled it torture. Do you think it's torture?
I think it is borderline torture. I think a lot of the enhanced interrogation techniques can be considered torture. I think they fit sometimes under the definition of torture. It depends how you do it and how you execute that specific technique. And I truly believe that we shouldn't be doing this because, first of all, the detainees were expecting more harsh treatment when we get them. I mean, the enhanced interrogation technique, as silly as it is, the enhanced interrogation techniques, as disgusting as it is, the enhanced interrogation techniques as against of our, culture and against of the way we do things. But if you look at it, it's kind of saying hello in an Egyptian jail under the Hosni Mubarak regime.
That's where things start.
Exactly.
Under Mubarak.
So this is where things start,
right.
and I'm sure you guys know that firsthand from covering that part of the world. So why do you want to go down on a route that eventually you're going to hit a glass ceiling? And when you hit the glass ceiling is the line that we're not going to cross. And that line with the enhanced interrogation techniques that we're discussing today is waterboarding. But so what do you do when you hit that line? You keep doing it again and again and again. In KSM, we did it 183 times. With Abu Zubaydah, we did it 83 times. So when do you realize that this technique is not working? The 82nd time? The 182nd time? That gives you an idea about how successful the technique was.
It's interesting, though, because, I remember when growing up, always people would say, well, the United States does not torture. And President Bush used to say that even with what his administration was doing. And in movies, you always think, well, evil people torture. Horrible, terrible, we know the stereotype of the torturer. To realize that Americans, contractors working for the CIA, were doing these kind of things, which when the Khmer Rouge did them, we call them torture. Is it only evil people who do these things?
Well, I think we have to look at the context of what was happening at the time. There was a lot of fear. People in Washington claimed they didn't know what hit us on 9/11. Even though in the book I made it clear that we knew exactly what hit us on 9/11, that the threat of Al-Qaeda did not start on 9/11.
You were, in fact, handed a classified memo the day after 9/11.
We were handed a classified memo on September 12th, me and my team down in Yemen. We were in Yemen investigating the USS Cole. And that information that was included in that memo, if we were given when we first asked for it back in November of 2000, 9/11 could have been a very different day.
Could have been averted?
There's a big possibility, yes.
Why? What was the significance of that?
Well, when we were doing the investigation of the USS Cole, we found out that there was a meeting took place in Southeast Asia. So we start asking questions about that meeting in Southeast Asia.
USS Cole was the ship that had been attacked years before.
In Aden, Yemen. Right. It was attacked in October of 2000. So we start asking questions to the intelligence community. Do you have any information about this meeting? We were very concerned, and I talk about it in a lot of details in the book, very concerned about what Al-Qaeda is doing over there. On September 12th, we found out that two people who were connected to individuals involved in the call, two people that we've been asking questions, two people who were attended the meeting that we have been asking questions about were on Flight 77. It's Khalid Mihdar and Nawaf Hazmi.
And I guess back to my other question, which I didn't really ask very well, but I guess to me, one of the lessons of this is that good people or regular people with enough fear or with enough belief that they're doing the right thing are capable of doing just about anything. I mean, it's not the stereotypical, we can all go to a point where we inflict pain on somebody else.
See, the problem, we didn't have to do that. And in the book, I talk about a lot of the successes that we did before 9/11 and after 9/11. And some of the biggest successes in the war against Al-Qaeda did not come because of enhanced interrogation techniques, did not come because...
What worked?
Knowledge, understanding the enemy, manipulating the situation to your own advantage, typical things that people in the intelligence community and the law enforcement community has been doing for the longest period of time. And it is important to actually also put it out there that it was not an issue between FBI or CIA or military and CIA. This is not the issue. I mean, in the book you will see many different circumstances where basically the CIA officers were the hero. Like with Abu Zubaydah, for example, top CIA officer left even before I left the location. He was protesting for what's happening. In the 45-minute chapter, which is an interrogation around the interrogation of Ramzi bin Shib, it was a CIA officer on the ground that refused the whole issue of rendition. And she decided that the FBI and CIA need to work together to get the information. Unfortunately, people in Washington overruled both of us. You know, in Guantanamo Bay, the chief the top CIA officer down in Guantanamo Bay made it very clear to everyone that we have to work together and we all work for Uncle Sam. So, you know, these things that I hear every now and then, it's FBI versus CIA, this is not accurate. It's actually FBI professionals, CIA professionals, DOD professionals, people in the field, people on the front line want to do something, and Washington is telling them, no, you know what, we know better than you, we're going to tell you how to do it.
Which is always interesting, because always people in Washington are saying, well, I'm taking my cues from the generals in the field or the people in the field. You're saying that's not really the case.
Well, that's not really the case, at least from what we witnessed with the so-called enhanced interrogation techniques.
How essential to do a good interrogation well does the interrogator, does yourself have to speak the language?
Not necessarily. I mean, I know a lot of people from the agency, I know a lot of people from the FBI, from DOD, who were excellent interrogators, and they did not have to speak Arabic. They can, you know, I think the most important thing is knowledge. You need to know a lot about the detainee that you're talking about. At least you need to know about the organization that he belongs to.
Right.
So during the interview with him, you start having a gut feeling. And the gut feeling, that sense instinct that you have it because of your knowledge, because of your deep knowledge of what he's talking to you about. And then from there you can start building your interrogation plan. From there you can start playing a mental poker game with the detainee that will lead to cooperation, and that will lead to guaranteeing that he is telling you the truth. Because, you know, there's a big difference between cooperation and between compliance. They are two different things. We saw compliance with Ibn Sheikh al-Libi. Ibn Sheikh al-Libi, as you know, an associate of Al-Qaeda. Right. He was an Al-Qaeda member. He is an associate also of Abu Zubaydah. He got caught in Afghanistan. He was rendered to a third country, and we know that the whole thing has been declassified now by the Armed Services Committee. He gave the information that led us to the war in Iraq. He told us that Saddam and Al-Qaeda are working together on WMD. Secretary Powell went to the UN mentioning by name Ibn Sheikh al-Libi as the source of information. After we found out that he was lying, and they went back to him and asked him, why did you say that? He said, well, you know, I wanted to give you what you want to hear, because I was being tortured. I want you to stop. So this is compliance. I can guarantee you that people in Washington who were looking for that link were very happy with it. They were probably high-fiving each other. And try to imagine somebody from the FBI or somebody from the CIA saying we shouldn't use these techniques when they see that it's producing something. However, we know that it was all a lie, and that wasn't accurate. And that's compliance.
And moving forward, because, I mean, clearly the battle is not won, the war is not over, however you define that war and however you believe it should be fought.
Absolutely.
Moving forward, what are the lessons?
I think the lessons that our strategy and our laws need to be in sync. And this is the only way we can win. It's like Sun Tzu said, if you know your enemy and know yourself, you will win 100 times in 100 battles. Unfortunately, in the last 10 years, we had the tendency to forget who we are, and we didn't know much about the enemy either.
Ali Soufan, I appreciate you being with us. The book is fascinating. It's The Black Banners, the inside story of 9/11 and the war against Al-Qaeda. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, sir.